So, what's up, y'all? Solo, the 5-star general, and I'm here with that Chapo Guzman update. The trial of the century is going on, and I just want to fill you in on what's been going on up to this point. So sit back, relax, and let me fill you in. Peace.
1-star, 2-star, 3-star, 4-star, 5-star general, 5-star general. Go hard, grind hard, born hard, bred hard. 5-star general, 5-star general.
Okay, so our story begins with the 3 rats. And that's fitting for this Christmas holiday. We 3 kings, we got we 3 rats. Now, they're the most recent snitches to take the stand against Chapo Guzman in this lengthy trial that's currently headed in the holiday break. They didn't testify because they turned Buddhist or were trying to erase past karma. They didn't get religion or a conscience, but they got a prison sentence. That's what makes you a dirty rat. They all told in order to benefit their own cases. Because of this, their credibility is in question. Of course, defense attorneys say it destroys their credibility, and I get it. It does. But sometimes these guys are very believable, and no matter what their backgrounds are, they get believed by the jury. So Flores, admitted that he tried to set Chapo up. So he's already that type of guy that tries to set people up. Since we were already talking about him, we might as well continue with that. Pedro and Margarito Flores were 2 twins out of Chicago. Pedro says he worked with Chapo to distribute cocaine to cities throughout the U.S. He kept calling Chapo the man throughout his testimony, which shows the way that he viewed him. He talks about being on the run in Mexico and meeting Chapo and seeing a naked man tied to a tree at the compound while being tortured. He also got stressed out and he decided to take everybody with him, and he contacted narcotics agents in order to secure a deal. So he recorded phone calls the jury heard as well. Apparently, everyone said Chapo was a very polite guy. And just on a side note, these are the 3 most recent snitches to take the stand against Chapo Guzman in this lengthy trial that's currently headed into holiday break. Now, they didn't testify because they turned Buddhist or were trying to erase past karma. They didn't get religion or a conscience, but they got a prison sentence. That's what makes you a dirty rat. They all told in order to benefit their own cases. Now, because of this, their credibility is coming into question. And of course, the defense attorneys will say it destroys their credibility, and I get it, it does. But sometimes these guys are very believable, and no matter what their backgrounds are, the juries are going to believe them. Flores had admitted that he's tried to set Chapo up, so he's basically putting everything out on the table. He's showing everybody that, he doesn't really care what they think of him, and this is what he did. And this is something that juries tend to respond to. Now moving on to Tirso Martinez Sanchez. They call Martinez el futbolista, the soccer player, because he owned teams in Mexico. He talks of losing shitloads of dough on cockfights and of getting plastic surgery to change his appearance. He was the one I spoke of in the previous video that oversaw Chapo's alleged scheme to move drugs from Mexico to New York by oil tanker trains with secret clavos or compartments. He quit after he began fearing for his life when 3 warehouses were raided and a lot of money was lost. The irony of it all is now they really want him dead because he fucked up the train route. So he went on the run and he said they wanted to kill me because I lost the train route. I just didn't want to keep going. So because you don't want to play anymore, you send everybody else to jail. It doesn't make no sense. Cifuentes tells how he started his life of crime at the tender age of 4, moving illegal cigarettes and booze through the port of Medellin, Colombia. He talks about his brother ordering the killing of his nephew because the nephew wanted to kidnap his own grandmother, which I'm assuming is one of their mothers since he was their nephew. It's like one of those riddles, but yeah. Anyway, he eventually stepped his game up and started using airplanes made of carbon to avoid detection. He was shipping Colombian coke to the Sinaloa cartel. He describes a party that he attended for Chapo's 2-year escape anniversary. Another time, he talks about smoking a joint with Chapo. This does nothing to me, he told the rat. Then 2 days ago, Chapo's lawyers are banned from using cell phones in the courtroom because of alleged phone use by the defendant's wife in the courtroom. Judge Brian Cogan of the Eastern District of New York said the alleged conduct of attorneys Mariel Colon, Mito, and Michael Lambert demonstrates a flagrant disregard for the court's rules and a grave misunderstanding for the need for security and order. But the situation that everybody's talking about that's all over the internet now is Chapo crying in the courtroom upon seeing his 7-year-old twin daughters. They made an appearance in the courtroom, and Chapo was, visibly upset, and he was crying. They also got to visit him at the federal detention center that he's being held at. So they're saying that this is going to humanize Chapo. They're saying that this is going to give the jurors a look into a person who everybody has painted as a monster, and they're going to give him a human face. And I think that's true. But I mean, will it really be able to mitigate everything that they're saying he did? I mean, I don't know. Now, this is from Rolling Stone magazine by Noah Horowitz, and this basically details phone calls that were recorded by Pedro Flores. One of the phone calls, Pedro says, "Do you think that we can work something out where you can deduct 5 pesos from those for me?" And then Chapo says, "Well, what do we agree on?" And he says, "You're giving it to me at 55. Chapo says, "How much are you going to pay for it?" And Pedro says, "Well, I was saying if you do me the favor, I'll pay 50 for them, but I have the check ready." Now, this is all recorded conversations that Flores used to try to set Chapo up. And it also says, Joaquin El Chapo Guzman Loera sounded chipper on the phone, arranging a steep discount for kilos of heroin with a Chicago-born drug trafficker who had become one of his best drug distribution partners stateside. Greeting an alleged customer amiably with an exclamation of "Amigo," Guzman set about negotiating a 20-kilo shipment of heroin, even displaying an apparent show of generosity when he agreed to drop the price from 55 per kilo to 50, saving the other man about $100,000 for the load in exchange for the next day payment. In another call, Guzman sounded elated when the man on the other end of the phone said he could move 40 kilos of heroin per month. "Ay, que bueno," he exclaimed. "Oh, that's good." Little did Guzman know the Americans were listening. The 2 phone calls recorded on November 2008 were entered into evidence Wednesday in Brooklyn federal court, where Guzman is facing a sprawling 17-count indictment for drug trafficking and faces life in prison if convicted. On the other side of the call was Pedro Flores, a Mexican-American drug trafficker who, alongside with his twin brother Margarito Flores, worked closely for years with the Sinaloa cartel to distribute tons of its cocaine and heroin to dealers in Chicago and beyond. Flores took the stand this week to testify against Guzman, the 7th cooperating witness to point the finger at his former boss, who prosecutors accuse of turning the Sinaloa cartel into one of the most prolific drug trafficking organizations of all time. The twins were born in Chicago, to a father who got them involved in the drug trade at an early age. According to court documents and a book co-written by their wives, between 2005 and their surrender in 2008, the brothers became some of the most reliable traffickers moving the Sinaloa cartel's drugs in the United States, trafficking an average of 1,500 to 2,000 kilos of coke per month through their hub in Chicago, according to court documents. In court this week, Flores estimated they moved $800 million worth of cocaine for the cartel, along with 200 kilos of the cartel's heroin worth $10 million, according to Vice News. Despite El Chapo's upbeat tone on the recorded phone calls, the Flores brothers had good reason to fear their boss. and had seen a much darker side of the man who allegedly called them amigo. In one disturbing incident in May 2005, Flores told jurors he flew to the mountains to meet El Chapo. When he arrived there, he was horrified to see a naked man chained to a tree, and guessed that the victim of Guzman's vengeance was a prisoner of the cartel, Vice reports. Over time, the brothers began to question whether the risks they were running were worth the reward, especially because Guzman, and his partner, Ismael Zambada, were engaged in a bloody fight for control of smuggling routes with his former ally Arturo Beltran Leiva. That question became more urgent in 2008 when Flores learned his wife was pregnant, according to Vice. I began to think about our future, or that lack of a future. I thought they deserved better, Flores said. In November of 2008, shortly after recording the phone calls with El Chapo, and after tipping off authorities to multiple shipments of drugs that agents then seized, the Flores brothers turned themselves into the DEA, according to court documents. As the brothers were laying the trap for the cartel and then planning their surrender, their families hastily escaped from Mexico, a dramatic retreat outlined in the book Cartel Wives, which was co-authored by Mia and Olivia Flores. In the wake of the surrender of the Flores brothers, authorities used the information they provided to indict, and in some cases capture, dozens of their associates in the United States and Mexico. In exchange for their cooperation, the brothers received a sentence of just 14 years behind bars, but will likely spend the rest of their lives in witness protection, prosecutors wrote in a memo prior to their sentencing in 2015. Despite the sweetheart deal, the brothers have already paid a hefty price for their cooperation with the government, one that underscores the danger to anyone willing to cross the cartel. After the pair turned themselves in hastily evacuated their families from Mexico, their father, against the advice of the family's minders, re-entered Mexico in 2009 to take care of some personal business. According to court documents, within days he vanished and is presumed to have been murdered, and the cartel made it clear why, leaving a note at the scene of the kidnapping, making it explicit that their dad's disappearance was a direct result of the brothers' cooperation, according to a 2015 sentencing memo describing the brothers' work with prosecutors. The testimony this week by Pedro Flores was some of the most damning evidence against El Chapo yet, and the most detailed description so far of how Guzman allegedly relied on a network of affiliated distributors in the United States to move his coke, heroin, methamphetamine, and weed. Flores told the jury how he and his brother, who he said got involved in the drug trade through their father at the age of 7, would store drugs in stash houses in affluent neighborhoods in cities across the United States to avoid suspicion, including one stash house that afforded a worker there a beautiful view over the Brooklyn Bridge, Flores said, according to Vice News. The phone calls, which Flores said were taped on a voice recorder purchased at Radio Shack in Mexico, had the potential to be particularly incriminating for El Chapo. According to the Los Angeles Times, when William Purpura, one of the Guzman's lead defense attorneys, began to question Flores, he tried to challenge the veracity of the tapes, but it didn't really work. So, that's basically it. That's the update. Just let me know what you think. Leave a comment. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. And let me know. You think Chapo is going to jail forever? You think he's going to escape again? What do you think is going to happen? You think that these rats are justified in what they did? Let me know. But also support us at 5stargenerals.myshopify.com for dope tees and hoodies. And peace and blessings to all of y'all. One.
War ain't about who's right. Sometimes it's about who's left.